The War Council chamber aboard the Dralthurak dreadnought, Vengeance of Claw, stank of blood oil and seared bone, just the way Warlord Kraz liked it. He stood at the helm, one claw resting on the control console, a sneer carved deep into his face. Tall and sinewy, with dark scar marks coiled across his shoulders like tattoos of conquest, he exuded the confidence of a creature that had never lost a battle, never known fear, and certainly never heard of anything as ridiculous as cowboys. His yellow eyes scanned the latest intelligence report glowing on the translucent data pane. "This Earth," he growled, the word distasteful, like spoiled meat. "A backwater planet, unclaimed, unguarded, and according to our scans, infested with carbon-based bipeds armed with projectile tubes and gasoline-powered vehicles." Lieutenant Grivnock stepped forward, chest puffed, mandibles twitching with pride. He had brought the report, and he expected praise. "Yes, Warlord. They call the tubes guns, and the vehicles are trucks, I believe. Their largest weaponry appears to be chemically propelled, built of iron alloys. No plasma, no neurosymbiotics, no particle fields, just combustion." Kraz blinked slowly. "Are they aware they live in the 9th galactic cycle?" "They seem unaware of even the 4th, Grivnock said, adjusting his data gauntlet. "Though, we did intercept a series of their communications. Broadcasts?" "Yes, but strange ones." Grivnock hesitated, then tapped a few glyphs. A flickering hollow played in the air between them. A man wearing denim pants, screaming while holding a small machine gun, diving away from an explosion. "They call this Die Hard, apparently." Kraz narrowed his eyes. "Is this actual war footage?" "We're unsure." Another clip played. A figure in a sleeveless shirt punched a man into a cake and shouted, "I ain't got time to bleed." Kraz frowned. "This one appears to use sarcasm as a combat tool." Grivnock gulped. "They appear to employ humor in direct combat contexts." Kraz said nothing for a long moment. "Launch the predatory expedition. I want to see these clowns for myself." Across the void of space, on the third planet, from a mid-aged star, Captain Marcus Dean flipped a steak with a pair of oversized tongs and gave his portable grill a firm nod of approval. The meat sizzled in the dry Texas heat. He wore denim cargo shorts, mirrored sunglasses, and a tank top that read, "Ribs, Guns, Freedom." The kind of man who looked like he retired not because he had to, but because he ran out of wars to win. Behind him, parked half on the gravel shoulder and half on stubborn prairie grass, sat his pride and joy. A decommissioned military food truck retrofitted with a smoker, a small munitions locker, and a custom flame decal featuring an eagle grippings, a spatula in one talon and a revolver in the other. He looked up as his radio crackled. "This is Marcus. If you're not bleeding or out of brisket, this better be quick." "Dean, it's the sheriff," came a voice. "Got a strange report out near the Mesquite Flats. Said some folks saw a big lizard in armor chasing a tumbleweed." Marcus squinted. "You just described half the tourists in April." They said it was glowing. Marcus set down his tongs. "Now that I believe." 2 miles away, the Dralthurak scouting team emerged from their cloaked lander, claws clicking over red dust. Lieutenant Grivnock led the team of 5. Each wore advanced bio-armor that shifted color with terrain, each armed with scythe blades, plasma spears, and ocular deflectors. They were the best hunters bred for planetary first strike. They expected to be met with screaming, perhaps panicked herds, possibly resistance from primitive tanks or aerial drones. What they found instead was smoke from mesquite wood and country, music blaring from a speaker duct-taped to a windmill. Grivnock raised a scanner, checked for heat signatures, and scowled. Single life form. Center of the camp. "Alone?" Grivnock hesitated. "Possibly bait." He signaled with 2 claws. The squad fanned out, surrounding the area. As they crept closer, Marcus turned to face them, still holding the plate of grilled meat in one hand. "You boys part of that new cosplay thing?" he said, squinting at their armor. "Kinda early for Halloween, ain't it?" Grivnuk stepped forward. "Primitive, you are now property of the Dralthurak Empire. Surrender your territory, knowledge, and reproductive resources." Marcus blinked. "You want my grill, my recipes, and—" "My what now?" Grivnuk raised his blade. "Resistance will be met with extinction." Marcus set the plate down. "Okay." Then he threw the plate like a discus. It hit one of the Dralthurak square, in the face. The creature stumbled back, snarling, momentarily blind from spicy BBQ sauce. Marcus moved faster than any of them anticipated. He reached under the picnic table, pulled out an M1 Garand rifle, and fired. The round slammed into another alien's shoulder, sparking against its energy armor, throwing it into a folding chair. Grivnuk leapt forward with a roar, blade swinging. Marcus ducked low, grabbed a baseball bat with duct tape wrapped around the handle, "Betsy," and swung upward into Grivnuk's jaw. Bone cracked. The alien reeled, cursing in Drawl tongue. Two others tried to flank Marcus, but he kicked over a propane tank, flipped a match, and launched a makeshift fireball into their path. Smoke and chaos filled the clearing. Screams. Plasma bolts sizzled past Marcus's ears. He dove behind the truck, popped the emergency compartment, and pulled out a sawed-off shotgun engraved with "Old Reliable." One alien aimed from above the cab. Marcus grinned. "Yippee-ki-yay! Scale sack!" He fired. The blast knocked the creature back 10 feet into the grill. Sizzling followed. Not meat this time. Grivnuk, his mandible cracked and blood streaking his armor, crawled behind a tree. "Fall back!" he barked into his comm. "The human is unstable." Another soldier limped past, clutching a scorched thigh. He smiled during combat. "Who does that?" They retreated, one limping, one unconscious, two dragging the stunned, one with sauce in his eyes. Marcus dusted himself off, reloaded, and sat down at his picnic bench, pulled a fresh beer from the cooler. He looked up at the smoke trail from their departing shuttle and raised his can in salute. "Next time, bring napkins." Inside the Vengeance of Claw, Warlord Kraz watched the helmet footage. In one frame, the human had slung a shotgun over his back, picked up a sandwich, and resumed eating before the dust even cleared. Another clip showed him dodging plasma fire by somersaulting over a grill, with a smile that was entirely too relaxed for open warfare. This was a single unarmored. "Mila?" Kraz asked, voice tight with disbelief. "Yes, Warlord," Grivnuk wheezed from the med-chamber. His jaw was wired shut. "I believe he is one of their elders." Kraz's brow twitched. "Elder? That was an elite hunter." "No, sire. We believe he is retired." Kraz stood slowly, claws tapping metal. "Then what do they send to war?" Silence stretched. He turned toward his generals. "Prepare the full assault formation. No more probes. Earth will be taken by force." Across the stars, Marcus Dean sat with his dog Hank, watching the sunset from a lawn chair, shotgun across his lap and a root beer in hand. He rubbed his jaw, already sore. "I give it 3 days before they come back with friends." Hank barked. "Good. Gives me time to smoke the ribs." Above them, a glimmer of starlight flickered in patterns no natural satellite ever made. War was coming, but Earth wasn't afraid. Not this time. Not ever. In the shadow of the moon, high above Earth's atmosphere, the Vengeance of Claw hovered in silent menace, cloaked in active graviton camouflage. Warlord Kraz stood in the center of the command deck, tail twitching in agitation, as tactical holograms rotated around him. The failed skirmish had wounded more than his troops. It had bruised the Empire's pride. Predators did not retreat. They did not lose to prey, and certainly not to an unarmored human grilling meat in flip-flops. Around him, his top strategists, studied scans of Earth's continents. One, a cybernetic hybrid named Vrelic, clicked his voice synthesizer on. "Warlord, I have dissected the skirmish footage frame by frame. The human's motions suggest ingrained kinetic training, possibly tribal combat passed down by ritual or televised performance art." "You think he's a warrior caste?" Kraz muttered. "No. Stranger. His behavioral matrix overlaps with low caste relaxation protocols. He exhibited no fear, even when surrounded. We theorize Earth's social hierarchies are reversed. The less armored and more casually dressed the human, the more lethal they are." Kraz narrowed his eyes. "Are you suggesting these humans hide their elite among their civilians?" Another strategist, Sarnak the Stalker, stepped forward with his tail arched in scholarly excitement. "Warlord, we have translated more of their cultural transmissions. There are repeated themes of lone warriors acting independently, fueled by vengeance, patriotism, or personal codes. Names repeat: Rambo, John Wick, Chuck Norris." Kraz raised a claw. "Stop. You expect me to believe they make mythology out of warriors who fight alone, bare-chested, against superior forces, and win. That is exactly what they teach their young," Sarnak said. "They appear to admire stubborn, individualistic aggression." Kraz turned to his officers. "Then we will give them what they worship. I want their cities marked, their leaders extracted, and their symbols desecrated. Prepare the dread lances. Mobilize the drop beasts. We will show them real terror." A day later, Marcus Dean was waist-deep in grease and stubborn bolts beneath his food truck, muttering about faulty ignition cables. The sun beat down mercilessly. Nearby, his dog Hank gnawed indifferently on what might have once been a drone limb. The scent of mesquite still lingered in the air. The radio hissed. Static broke, followed by a voice lined with panic. "This is Houston PD. Anyone receiving? We have unidentified craft landing across the Gulf Coast. Some kind of Jesus biomechanical constructs, large as freight trains. They're—" Another voice cut in. "We just lost New Orleans. Repeat, we just—" Marcus slid out from under the truck, wiping his hands on a rag as fighter jets screamed overhead. Trails of vapor crisscrossed the blue sky. Distant booms thundered like the 4th of July got drunk on steroids. He stood silently, watching the horizon where fire began to bloom. Hank growled. Marcus looked down, cracked his knuckles, and said, "Well, guess the tourists are back." At Fort Cormack, one of the last active anti-air stations outside Dallas, Colonel Ray Carter slammed his fist on the table. The 62-year-old veteran had served in more conflicts than there were brands of barbecue sauce. Bald, blunt, and built. Like a fire hydrant, he had little patience for subtlety or alien incursions. Beside him stood Dr. Erin Zhang, a defense analyst and tech linguist. She wore glasses thick as ship portholes and carried herself with the neurotic grace of someone who lived on caffeine and sarcasm. "Tell me again," Carter growled, "how our satellites didn't see a ship the size of Manhattan floating into orbit?" Dr. Zhang exhaled. "Because it's not just cloaked. It's running some kind of adaptive light sculpting field. The thing doesn't just hide. It lies to our sensors. It's not stealth. It's digital gaslighting." Carter blinked. "English, please. They're invisible and smug about it." "Great. So what can hit them?" She tapped her console. "Nothing orbital. But whatever they're dropping to Earth, now that's meat we can grill." Images filled the screen. Massive arachnoid. Constructs with organic plating and tendrils tipped with fusion cannons. Entire city blocks were being erased in flashes of violet light. Houston, Jacksonville, Mobile, all lighting up like pinball machine scores. But oddly, rural areas remained untouched. Carter frowned. "Why are they avoiding the backwoods?" Zhang zoomed in. "Well, it looks like they tried. This area in West Texas. They dropped 3 Lancers there yesterday. And? None of them came back up. Carter looked at the screen again. What the hell is in West Texas? She smirked. A guy named Marcus Dean. And a food truck. Meanwhile, 30 miles west of San Antonio, a Dral-Thurak forward unit had surrounded a small ranch compound. Dozens of armored figures stood still, tense. A single figure emerged from the barn, adjusting a backward baseball cap, shotgun across his back, chewing a toothpick. Marcus stopped on the front steps, looked at the invaders, and called out, "You fellas ever try peachwood smoke?" The war commander of the squad, Kriztak, raised his translator and spoke. "We are not here for samples, primitive. You will surrender your territory and identify any others like you." Marcus cracked his neck. "Sorry, I don't recall signing any lease with Galactic reptiles. And I ain't got others like me. Closest is probably Chuck, but he moved to Arkansas." Kriztak stepped forward. "You jest in the face of extinction?" "No, I jest because I've got 17 bear traps, 6 punjay pits, and a claymore pointed directly at your foot." Kriztak glanced down. Click! The explosion knocked him 20 feet into the air. Chaos erupted. Beasts roared. Plasma bolts flew. But Marcus had vanished into the cornfield. One soldier gave chase, only to be tackled by Hank, who now wore a bandana that read, "Bite first, bark never." Another was taken down by a tripwire that dropped a hornet's nest directly onto his head. The screams were not dignified. Within minutes, the squad was routed. One soldier made it back to the evac shuttle. The others were either unconscious, tangled in barbed wire, or suffering extreme psychological distress from exposure to country music played at max volume. Warlord Kraz watched the disaster unfold through shaky body cam footage. A human dog had bitten a soldier's tail, and then urinated on the corpse of a lancer beast. Kraz slammed a claw down. "Why do they not fight conventionally? Why do they speak in riddles? You want fries with that? Is this a taunt?" Sarnak looked worried. "Warlord, our psychology algorithms cannot decode their humor. It appears to be context-dependent and wildly inconsistent." Kraz paced, rage building. "Every predator species we've conquered, every prey world, we've broken them in days. But these humans? They quote fictional warriors before ambushing us with garden tools. They weaponize irony." Frelich added, "It gets worse. Their children are now filming the invasions. Some have begun adding laser sound effects in post-production and uploading to something called TikTok. We believe they are converting your defeats into entertainment." Kraz froze. "They're mocking us? They are monetizing us." On the dark side of the moon, Kraz summoned his elite. The Blood Howl Pack. Genetically enhanced, neurolinked, armored in living metal. Warriors born for one thing: extinction-level combat. He raised his claws. "Send them to the surface. I want their strongest cities brought to ash. I want their leaders dragged to me. No more games." The pack bowed. Back on Earth, Marcus adjusted a new sign in front of his compound. It read, "Alien BBQ Challenge. Loser." Picks up the tab. He sipped his coffee, now served in a mug labeled 11 Space Boogeyman, and waited. From the distance, thunder rumbled. But it wasn't weather. Something bigger was coming. Something meaner. He cracked a smile. 'Bout time. The moon's shadow stretched over North America as the Blood Howl Pack descended through the atmosphere like wolves hunting under cloud cover. Each warrior dropped in personalized bio-armored pods, their impact craters ringing with seismic force. Civilians in Dallas scattered like startled birds. By the time emergency broadcast systems warned of incoming hostiles, the first power stations had already gone dark. Highways became rivers of red taillights, and overhead, drones fell silent, their control signals jammed or severed. Colonel Ray Carter stood at the fortified gates of Fort Cormack, eyeing the horizon through binoculars. Dust plumes bloomed like angry ghosts across the prairie. Something big was moving, fast and in formation. Dr. Erin Zhang, wired into 6 satellite uplinks and operating 3 independent data streams, had dark circles under her eyes and 3 caffeine patches on her wrist. She didn't look up as she spoke. 7 inbound signatures, each radiating enough thermal bleed to melt half a county. Full body armor, integrated psionic shields, and coordinated neural comms. These aren't grunts. They're specialists. Carter tightened his grip on the binoculars. How much time? 10 minutes before they're in range of civilian districts. 7 until they hit the outer perimeter. If they're as fast as I think, 5 before they send us a calling card. As if summoned by her prediction, a sharp whistle tore through the air. A high-velocity object slammed into the base's east wall, cracking the reinforced concrete like it was plasterboard. Dust choked the corridor as sirens howled. From the smoke walked a towering alien, plated in obsidian armor that shimmered, with a living pulse. Behind it, 6 more figures stepped forward in eerie unison. Carter didn't flinch. Looks like they're early. Marcus Dean watched the live feeds from a salvaged alien interface he'd duct-taped to a 1997 plasma screen. His boots rested on an ammo crate, and his hat shaded eyes that burned with slow fury. Hank sat beside him, tail still, ears forward. The moment the Blood Howl pack touched down, Marcus stood up, holstered his revolver, and loaded the 1 shotgun. Shell he always saved for serious business, engraved with the words, "For the end." Dr. Zhang rerouted all comms to secure line Alpha, the one labeled only Kitchen. She tapped into an encrypted channel and waited. A gruff voice finally answered. "You rang?" She exhaled in relief. "Marcus, we've got company." "Figured. They land polite? Put a hole in our east wall and broke 3 seismic meters just walking." "That sounds about right. Let 'em stretch their legs." "What do you need?" "Same as always. 10 minutes and a distraction." Dr. Zhang looked at Carter. He nodded without hesitation. "You've got it." In the ruins of East Fort Cormack, Sergeant Julio Vega led the counter squad with grit clenched between his teeth. The son of immigrants and a veteran of 6 off-world conflicts, Julio had no illusions about survival. His men weren't equipped for this kind of enemy. The alien closest to them moved faster than any biological should, closing the distance, between barricades and blinks. Its weapon emitted silent, concussive waves that liquefied lungs without leaving entry wounds. Still, Julio held the line, barking commands and dragging wounded soldiers behind cover. Each second they delayed the Blood Howl pack was a second Marcus Dean needed. And in Julio's book, a second bought for Marcus was worth 3 enemy casualties. The front line bent, but didn't shatter. Not yet. The largest alien, 8 feet, of muscle, plated bone, and a snarl that crackled with energy, paused mid-charge. Its head snapped westward. Something in its neural feed disrupted the pack's shared sensory link. All 7 warriors turned simultaneously. They felt it. The pull of an unfamiliar variable. Not fear, but tension. Predators recognized predators. The sand cracked. Marcus emerged from the brush. Dressed in weather-worn jeans, a flannel shirt with holes scorched through the sleeves, and a steel plate vest hidden beneath layers of duct tape and prayer, he walked, like a man strolling into a grocery store. Not a trace of urgency in his step. Only the slow certainty of someone who'd buried more than his share of threats. In his right hand, a modified 6-barrel scattergun. In his left, a tomahawk with alien plasma etched into the blade. On his hip, a radio that buzzed softly. "Marcus." "Dean, Earthborn," the lead Blood Howl pack member transmitted in guttural approximation of English. "You are designated Apex Entity. Surrender and receive extinction with dignity." Marcus tilted his head. "Did you say receive extinction?" Is that a coupon deal or just the house special? The aliens paused. They had been briefed on his sarcasm, warned of his tone, but the reality was more confounding than theory. He didn't just mock them. He diminished them by refusing to play by their script. Without further warning, the closest warrior lunged. Marcus didn't move until the last second, ducked, sidestepped, and fired point-blank into the side of the alien's ribcage. The slug erupted with concussive force, hurling the creature back into a half-crumbled tower. Marcus moved before it hit the ground. The next target fired a plasma spear. Marcus dropped to one knee and flung the tomahawk, the blade igniting in mid-air as it buried itself into the attacker's throat joint. 4 more closed the distance. Each had adapted to a different form of planetary warfare. One moved like a jungle cat, another like a war tank. But Marcus had fought worse. He danced. Between them, not with grace, but with violence shaped by necessity. He wasn't fluid. He was brutal, efficient, practical, every motion designed to cripple, every blow delivered with the weight of memory and rage. 3 fell. The remaining alien moved differently, larger, older. Its armor bore glyphs of campaigns, across entire star systems. Its eyes glowed a deeper crimson. It stepped over its fallen, unshaken. Marcus stopped, reloaded without looking, and regarded it. "You their dad or something?" The alien responded not with words but by raising a massive warhammer charged with dark energy. When it struck, the shockwave split the ground for 30 feet. Marcus was already rolling sideways, boots slipping in cracked soil. He came up blasting. 2 shots to the chest, 1 to the thigh. The alien grunted but didn't fall. Carter watched the engagement from the fort's drone feed. He was silent for a long while. Then he looked at Dr. Zhang. "Is it just him out there?" She nodded. "That's the job." Marcus circled the behemoth slowly, breathing steady. He'd felt pain before. Real pain. The kind that stayed in. Joints and scars long after the bleeding stopped. This wasn't about endurance. This was about message. The warhammer struck again, clipped his left shoulder and sent him spinning. Marcus landed hard, spat blood, and laughed. "You hit like a minor league linebacker." The alien hesitated. For just a fraction, Marcus capitalized on it. He surged forward, pressed the shotgun against the creature's helm, and fired until the chamber clicked empty. The body dropped in convulsions, armor still sparking, skull cracked open like a helmet split by a sledgehammer. Silence settled. Marcus stood over the fallen leader, breathing heavy but upright. Around him, scorched earth and broken alien steel marked the battleground. Of the Blood Howl pack, only 1 survivor remained. Wounded, dazed, retreating slowly into the woods. Marcus let him go. "Go tell your warlord," he muttered. "Earth's got more than barbecue. We've got bad habits and worse neighbors." That night, Warlord Cross received the report in his war chamber. The Blood Howl pack eliminated. The apex human, uninjured. Galactic morale, fractured. He stared at the report. The grainy footage of Marcus walking away from 7 broken warriors. He called for silence. "This is no longer conquest. This is retribution. Prepare orbital strike teams, and wake the Ascendant." Outside, Earth's orbit in a cryotomb buried in the hull of the Empire's oldest battle moon, something began to stir. Something the galaxy hadn't needed in 10,000 years. On Earth, Marcus fed Hank bits of charred alien flank. The sky above shimmered faintly. He watched the stars and felt something move up there. He poured a glass of whiskey, nodded once, and muttered, "Well then, guess I'll need more ammo." Smoke coiled above the scorched fields outside Fort Cormack, hanging in the air like a warning left unsigned. Satellite coverage over North America had been reduced to a skeletal framework, patched together from surviving relay drones and a few repurposed orbital farming units. From space, Earth resembled a wounded animal baring its teeth, bloodied but not yet still. Marcus Dean leaned against a rusting observation tower, gaze locked on the low sky where clouds churned unnaturally. The barometric pressure dropped without warning, nature reacting to the foreign technology now saturating the upper atmosphere. Hank paced at his feet, low growls vibrating in his chest. The dog didn't growl at shadows unless they moved with purpose. Behind Marcus, Fort Cormack bustled with an intensity verging on desperation. Power cells hummed beneath sandbagged bunkers. Every engineer with steady hands and a pulse was on. Triple shifts. Salvaged alien tech, too unstable to trust, was being fused into Earth's oldest machines. Diesel generators, bullet-fed railguns, and outdated targeting computers stripped from museum exhibits. Improvised warfare wasn't new to humans. Making something lethal out of whatever they had left was practically a birthright. Dr. Erin Zhang hadn't slept in 31 hours. Her voice carried the rasp of exhaustion and caffeine withdrawal, but her mind ran with brutal clarity. They're not just sending another strike team. This is Escalation protocol. Kraz is invoking Level 0 clearance. Marcus turned slightly. That mean anything to me? It should. Level 0's the protocol they used to raise the 10 systems during the rebellion cycle. Wipes clean entire biospheres. No prisoners. No infrastructure left intact. Just heat signatures and mineral remnants. Marcus spat dust. Overkill, Zhang. Didn't smile. You embarrassed them. Not just tactically, culturally. You shattered the myth of imperial predominance in real time. The entire galactic net is spinning with your footage. You're viral. They can't afford that. Carter stepped into the comms trailer, his uniform scorched, sleeves rolled to the elbows. His voice held no pretense. We've got 10 hours, 12 if their fleet slows for atmospheric integrity. If we hit them hard enough before they reach low orbit, we might buy more, Marcus shrugged. Might just die faster. Carter folded his arms. It's still a good death. A sudden tremor shook the ground. Not seismic, rhythmic, pulsing. Satellite footage confirmed what they feared. A vanguard of automated displacers, monolithic bipedal siege drones, had entered Earth's thermosphere. Each stood 30 meters tall and carried gravitic cores that bent light around their chassis. They weren't built to fight. They were built to erase. Marcus turned to Hank. The dog barked once, sharp and affirmative. They both started walking. Behind them, Dr. Zhang switched channels. You sure he can pull this off? Carter's eyes didn't leave the horizon. If he can't, we're out of miracles. The people who followed Marcus weren't soldiers, not by standard definition. Some had military pasts, others were survivalists, mechanics, and fringe scientists, people rejected by institutions but hardened by necessity. When Marcus called for help, they came. Not because they trusted the system, because they trusted him, a man who'd buried friends, lost family, and still stood unbroken. Among them was Cooper Banks, a demolitionist with fingers missing from both hands and a grin that never faded. He rode a modified dirt bike wrapped in scrap armor, rockets strapped to the sides with duct tape. He revved the engine, pulled up beside Marcus, and asked, "We doing this cowboy style or with a touch of class?" Marcus checked the shotgun, then the weathered revolver. Little of both. 3 displacers dropped into Kansas fields with thunderclaps that rolled to the Rockies. Where their feet landed, wheat turned to ash. Marcus rode a half-track truck rigged with jump-started alien capacitors, escorted by drones reprogrammed to recognize his voice signature as command authority. The convoy tore across open fields with a roar that mimicked thunder gods. The first siege drone fired a high-yield sonic disruptor that flattened windmills 20 miles out. Marcus didn't veer. He accelerated. He jumped from the cab as the truck detonated beneath the displacer's leg, taking out its lower joint and forcing the monolith into a mechanical kneel. From the smoke, he emerged with his tomahawk and the plasma-hardened crowbar he'd once used to pry open a cerulean war tank. He climbed, not with grace or speed, but with determination that outpaced gravity. Every inch gained brought more incoming. Fire. But the displacer's design had blind angles. Its arrogance made it vulnerable. He reached the core chamber, slammed the crowbar into the fusion seam, and pried until metal screamed. The core ejected moments before full overload, and Marcus kicked off the hull just as the machine imploded inward. Back at Fort Cormack, Dr. Zhang blinked at the live feed. "He cracked it open!" Carter raised an eyebrow. "How many more?" 8. Marcus landed hard, rolled, coughed blood, and stood up again. Hank met him halfway, dragging a fresh weapon in his jaws, something cobbled together from an old recoilless rifle and alien magnetic rails. Marcus took it, nodded his thanks, and moved on. They weren't trying to win. Not in the traditional sense. They were stalling, making Earth too costly to take. Every drone destroyed bought minutes. Every counteroffensive confused the data models the Empire relied on. In orbit, the fleet hesitated. Warlord Kraz watched the footage through a tactical lens. His lieutenants argued amongst themselves. No consensus formed. Their predictive models had not accounted for a lone operative inspiring a decentralized resistance capable of coordinated strikes. It wasn't strategy. It was chaos shaped into violence. And that terrified them more than any fleet. Kraz silenced the room with a gesture. "Launch the Ascendant." The cryovault split open in silence. Within lay a creature older than any living Imperial, a construct of bio-cybernetic, horror and psionic density. Its mind spanned thousands of lifetimes. Its last recorded engagement ended with the sterilization of 4 planetary populations. It did not speak. It thought, and nearby beings trembled. Earth's sensors went blind for 4 seconds as the Ascendant dropped from orbit. When it landed, a crater swallowed a city block. The shockwave blew out communications. Even Marcus paused. Dr. Zhang whispered into the static. "It's here." Marcus closed his eyes briefly. "Yeah, I feel it." The Ascendant stood in a field of electromagnetic distortion. Trees wilted, skies fractured with unnatural lightning. Birds dropped from flight. It moved without motion, phasing forward like reality bent around it. Any projectile fired at it disintegrated mid-flight. Energy weapons fed it. It was not built to kill. It was built to end. Marcus approached slowly, boots crunching ash, shotgun slung, tomahawk in hand. Hank growled, but stayed back. This fight wasn't his. Carter spoke into the backup line. "Dean, we've got 1 shot. Dr. Zhang thinks she can hack its dampening shell. We'll give you 5 seconds. Marcus didn't respond. He was already moving. The Ascendant turned its head. Slowly, curiously. For a being that had survived epochs, Marcus Dean was novel. It reached for him. Psionically, what it found was a void. No fear, no compliance, no resonance, just a blunt, unfiltered refusal. Marcus hurled the tomahawk, its edge flaring with alien coding etched by blood and time. It struck the Ascendant in the collar port. Microsecond delay. Just enough. Dr. Zhang overclocked the hijack. Command. The shell destabilized. Marcus fired not 1 shot. All of them. The shotgun cracked like thunder in a canyon, feeding shells loaded with chemical fury, ballistic heartbreak, and earth-grown hatred. The Ascendant staggered, not from damage, but from surprise. No creature had ever gotten this close. The final shot wasn't fired. It was delivered. Marcus charged, jammed the barrel into the creature's open collar seam, and pulled the trigger. A white flash. A detonation too bright for flesh. When the smoke cleared, the Ascendant was on one knee, flickering, failing. It turned its head slightly. Its voice, raw with age and disbelief, echoed in the air. "Why?" Marcus's voice was barely above a whisper. "Because you came to my house. He pulled the final pin on a grenade made from Earth's first fusion reactor. There was no noise, just light. A day later, in the broken hull of a crash-landed flagship, Warlord Kraz received the final transmission. The Ascendant was gone. Marcus Dean, missing. Earth, still burning, but not bowed. Carter stood at the edge of the crater, eyes scanning the horizon. Hank sat beside him, unmoving, waiting. Somewhere deep below, Marcus might have survived. And if he hadn't, then Earth had already begun producing others just like him.